So we're going to go through Nick's before and after deadlift. We'll go over everything he was doing wrong on this side, and then what he's improved on this right side. Obviously, this side's a conventional and this side is a sumo. We found that he just lifts better in a sumo position. So we opted to change in a sumo. However, the technique points that I'm going to cover is exactly the same between the two lifts. It's the same lift. It's just the legs are wider on this side with the hands in between the legs, and this side the arms are outside the legs and the stance is closer together. But technique points exactly the same. So looking over on this left side, essentially he doesn't have any setup. He's just basically like gripping and ripping off the floor. So firstly, we can see that his hips are starting too low, okay? Knees are too bent, that the shin angle is too far forward, and he's basically in like a squat-like position. So he's squatting his deadlift, and you can tell, I mean, one, just by looking at his position and see how the angle of his thigh is closer to parallel to the floor, where this one, the thigh is more diagonal to the floor. Oh, sorry, diagonal to the floor. But also, if we look on this left side, when he goes to lift the weight off the floor, before the weight breaks off the floor, you can see how high his hips shoot up. So his hips have to shoot all the way up to here before the weight actually starts breaking off the floor. So you'll see that when his hips are shooting up to the position that his hips were meant to be starting at, which you can see that the hip position that he is here now, just as he's going to lift the bar off the floor, is around the same hip height to what is here because he's in the correct position here. If we just run both these videos, you'll see in the right side, he doesn't have any hip shoot up. His knees and hips are opening at the same time, okay? So the joint extension, there's synchronization between the knee and hip joint when he lifts up. Whereas this side, again, you can see that the knees extend early, or we could say that the hips shoot up. It's kind of the same thing, okay? So here, hips are too low, okay? Whereas this side, where the correct hip position should be, is that when you're looking from the side, okay, one, there should be a bit of a V shape between the thigh and the torso here, okay? And two, this isn't directly from the side. This is a bit angled backwards, but if you're directly from the side, the barbell should be around in line with the shoulder blades, not the shoulder blade, okay? That's gonna be about the optimum position for the hip height, because again, when Nick stands up in this right side, knee joint, so if we're looking where my mouse is here, and the hip joint where we're looking at my mouse, where my mouse is, these are both going to open at the same time, okay? So first was the hip height. Two, he's not pulling the slack out the bar in this side. So he's just yanking off the floor, and you can see how you can see that he's got a lot of slack in his body, because partially because, what to do with it is because the hips are too low, but there's a lot of slack in his upper body. See how long his arms go before the weight breaks off the floor, okay? So he's got a lot of slack here that he needed to pull out, both in his upper body and the slack from the barbell, okay? Whereas you can see that when Nick is setting up here, he's slack here, but before he comes up, he's going to pull the slack out the bar, which you can see when his shoulders kind of go back and his upper back gets tight, okay? He has pulled the slack out the bar, and then the position of his back here and his shoulders prior to the weight breaking off the floor, compared to when the weight actually breaks off the floor, there is no change in shape, okay? His shoulders don't go forward, his upper back doesn't round. He maintains all that extension in his upper body. Whereas in this left side, again, you can see there's a lot of shape change, all right? His shoulders kind of pull forward. His torso is tipping towards the floor. So again, he's not pulling the slack out the bar on the left side, where this right side he's doing a better job at pulling the slack out the bar. And then 3, he's not keeping tight in his midsection, so there's no, he's not breathing or bracing at all. So you want to take in the breath through the mouth, okay? Brace that midsection so that is tight, okay? Which is going to help keep a bit more stiffness in this upper torso and spine to avoid it rounding forward like we're seeing in this side. Here he's taking in a bit of a breath, okay? Keeping that torso more rigid. But probably the main thing that's pointing out with getting this upper back rigid, he's not extending the spine at all, okay? So again, his torso looks quite soft. So when he lifts up, his back just rounds over, okay? There's no stiffness in that upper back. Whereas here, when he pulls the slack out the bar, he is setting his back, I say, so he's retracting his lower back extensors, okay, which is keeping his torso in that rigid unit. So again, like I said before, the shape of his torso when he's in his setup to when he lifts the weight off the floor does not change, okay? There is no flexion of the spine, or there's no visible flexion by the eyes of the spine. Yes, a little bit is fine, and there probably is some flexion going on, but there's like the difference between how he looks from the setup to when he lifts is pretty similar, okay? Whereas this left side is quite different. So again, he's got extension of the spine, taking in a big breath, maintaining a rigid like torso, and then lifting the weight off the floor. So the summary of that left side: hips are too low. 2, not taking the slack out the bar. 3, not really breathing and bracing. 4, not extending the spine before he comes up. So again, there was no setup in this one. Well, this one, he has some steps in place that he's doing in his setup. What we have went through when I've been coaching Nick, he's got his setup, which is arch your back, pull the slack out the bar, breathe and brace, hold the position, and then stand up. Okay, which you can see that he's doing here. All right, much more efficient deadlift, okay, much more cleaner. Moving the bar from point A to point B back to point A is much more clean. There's no bunch of like irrelevant movements which are not contributing to moving that bar, as I said, from point A, point B, back to point A.